I'd like to call the meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag. Good evening. Thank you all for coming. We have an agenda. I hope everyone has that available to them. So we'll start with the first item, and that's the Winters Historical Society irrigation proposal. So you're on, Wes.
Well, those of you that don't know me, my name's Wes Witters, and I'm vice president of the, it's now Greater West Hampton Historical Museum.
Oh, congratulations.
I have Ruth Ann Rosenthal here and Alicia Whitaker, who are gonna help with a very brief presentation. But the reason we're here is that we're actually your tenant. And not all the property there in the campus, at least the fruits that the buildings are on. So all the land and gardens and everything that, so we're here basically to get permission to implement a garden plan, a landscape plan that was developed between the then Historical Society and the White Hampton Garden Club. And that, as you will see on that plan, we want to do some hardscape that we wouldn't do without getting your permission. And that includes brick walkways and some raised garden beds. And there's a lot of reasons why we would like to do this. One is curb appeal of the property. The other is we have some ideas about educational values that we're going to implement in this plan of the goal. And turn it over to Ruth Ann, and she can give you a little explanation about the gardens themselves, and the folks will like the idea. Okay. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ruth Ann. Nice to meet you.
Hello.
We brought along our landscape plan and you have them in front of you.
Thank you.
So what we did as part of the garden club is we saw the Historical Society, the buildings with the landscape around, and we thought, would it be wonderful to plant gardens here and plant historically accurate gardens during the times of the homes. So the new class of the West Hampton Garden Club got together, learned how to design a garden, and we did historical research on other historical gardens and that time period and the town, and we did a plan and designed and did plant lists and created this landscape plan. The existing brick pathway is this one here. And what we've added is, right now we've implemented last June an 1840s ornamental pollinator garden. And I have photos I can show you of that. So we planted that garden, it needed no hardscape, we just did plants, so I can show you that. And there will be a hedge along the back of the property. When you look into the property, you have closure from the warehouse, and you also just see green, and you have this nice sense of
Closure.
included by the garden. And for people to enter from this particular here or green street. Between the buildings, there's going to be an herb type of garden. It'll be surrounded by boxwoods. These pink areas are garden, these garden beds with bricks surrounding, and that'll be historical oaks. And there'll be chairs here that you can come and sit. It'll be secluded from the street. And there's enough space here to have a gathering. So the Historical Society has their parties, they can set the bar up there. So it'll be a nice little gathering spot. When you can also enter into the Foster Micro home, and you'll pass through a gate here. And this will be bluestone dust, so it's accessible for strollers and wheelchairs. And this will be a 1790s dooryard garden. The homes to have a dooryard garden where their culinary herbs that they used in their stews, or their herbs to dye textiles or for medicinal purposes. There were no drugstores. All of the families needed to know what herbs and plants to grow and how to process them to cure diseases and ailments. So there will be a vegetable area on the dog legs areas here, and then a 4-quadrant garden that will be growing those culinary, textile, medicinal, and ornamental flowers. And what we hope to do is at some point to involve the elementary school and use the greenhouse there and educate the children on historical plants and hopefully get them to help us grow and plant them involved in the garden, and also to have students come and they can learn about the different plants and how the colonists use them and process them. Just to give you a little more background, we're proposing a fence that would go from the corner here of the house all the way around enclosing this garden, and then along Mill Road here and possibly up to here to enclose that. That's a typical feature of a colonial home to keep all of the livestock that are wandering around town out of here. And a picket fence is actually the size of Cheney chicken. So chickens. So this is just a mock-up of what it looks like now and what it would look like with a fence, with the greenery here. And these are the materials. So we're going to do raised brick gardens, raised gardens with brick so that we don't have to keep redoing them with wood every couple of years. This is the bluestone dust. And these are some elements of locust posts or trellises, obelisks, little arbors to sit underneath in the garden. This was one of our inspirational gardens. This is Mulford Farms. So if any of you are familiar with this or would like to visit that, this is what we're going for. This was our inspiration. We met with the West Hampton group of garden clubs in East Hampton. They gave us a tour. They told us about their process. They've had this garden now for 15 years and what they grow in it. They offered to share historical plants with us. But this shows you the picket fence, the enclosed dooryard garden. They have the link out, but we'll have one too.
That was a considered location at one point and we eliminated that. It was just too crowded already.
And these photos are taken in October, and it's still so lush and green and inviting and beautiful. This is to show you what we've done so far. This is the 1840s ornamental garden, just one season in, and you can see us planting the espalier tree, vine, and first year.
Great. Very good. No,
No,
it looks very
Looks
well
very good.
planned and thought out and,
This is excellent on the plan that these. These two black.
The arbor trellis.
Oh, just trellises, okay.
Yeah, so you walk through the
Okay.
grapevines on top and.
I wasn't sure exactly what they were, I was just.
There's our locust post. So that shows you.
Yeah, no, that's fine, it's, yeah. Yeah, you don't want to walk through, that's what I was, saying, you don't want anything blocking it, it looks like it was on the plan, it didn't look like that. Looks like it's blocking it.
Yeah, I didn't want to stop your presentation, but you had me at hello. Like no brainer. This is gorgeous, outstanding. Are you working on funding for this? Do you need funding, or is that? Kim's got a lot of money. Just asking. Okay.
That's a great question for Alicia
And
too.
well, we've had, donations from members and, people in the community. And what we're hopeful for is, a matching, Gardner Foundation grant. But we have enough money set aside now that we can do pretty much all of the, hardscape, the walkways and stuff. Once we get that in, then we can go ahead with the planting, creating the gardens. Yeah, but we'll need extra funds probably for the hedge,
for other things.
Love to, jump in and help out with that.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I just have
Outstanding.
a quick question. So that there's vegetables and an herb garden. What are you planning on doing with it? Using it for, because there's a lot of restaurant owners in this room here. So just curious.
Well, our first thought was to do a food bank.
Okay.
And to donate to the food bank. And also, the children are working in the garden. The children can take home the vegetables.
Okay.
And herbs, we're hoping to dry the herbs and show the children how you dry the herbs. We can use the Foster Meeker attic to hang them in. We're.
It's a learning
not
process,
having
Benjamin.
days,
It's
yeah.
a teaching process.
And it also there'll be a lot of pollinator plants also.
Mentioned to Wes in a phone call that we had that at the behest of our mayor next door, Bob Truehold, mayor of Quogue, there's a mayor's challenge for monarch butterflies, so I joined that. So if the more pollinating gardens we have, the better. That's
The pollinator garden, actually, 2 or 3?
2 different kinds of milkweeds.
2 different types of milkweed.
Great.
great. That's
That's-
exactly right
The
up that
milkweed is
alley.
for the monarch
Milkweed.
butterfly.
Kids, you used to see it all over.
So all those, yeah.
And we saw a lot of pollen, a lot of insects and butterflies and bees covering our plants. Just one season out, it's very satisfying.
I love this.
The West Hampton Garden Club has a commitment to this property now. When we first started talking about working with the museum, the first question was, are you going to put this in and then abandon us? Very committed to a multi-year relationship. We have money in our budget, in this 2024 budget for the herb garden. We'll put more money in 2025. And of course, any other donations are always welcome. But
Donations are always welcome.
it's really part of our 3-way collaboration. We see us collaborating, that it's a collaboration between the village, museum, and the garden club. So we're really hoping that you'll be able to provide the irrigation that we need for long-term success. Last summer, we organized our members to water every 4 days or so by hand, using the hose. But that was a very labor-intensive way to do things. And moving forward, we really need the irrigation. But
Right.
there's commitment to keep this up. So hopefully you'll approve the plan. Let us know what kinds of questions you have, and we look forward to that collaboration.
Sounds terrific. In preparation, Mr. Winters mentioned to me the irrigation concept, and I asked our DPW superintendent to seek an estimate, and he has done that. And I've spoken to the board, and I think we're pretty open to having park funds available for the irrigation portion. And that should probably be done before you plant anything.
Right.
And you also mentioned that there's a portion on the south.
East side.
Southeast side.
Side, yeah.
Yes, that you go down 18 inches and there's asphalt under there. I spoke to DPW again, and Mr. Fano seems to remember that that used to be a driveway entrance to that parking lot years and years ago.
Well, the old building. Yeah, that driveway was over further than went in there. That's probably the old driveway is all underneath that old.
So I've spoken again to Matt Smith, DPW. We have a brand new backhoe. I think the guys are anxious to try it out. See what we can find and get rid of the asphalt that isn't necessary. And I think when we have the irrigation proposal finalized with this updated plan, I think it'll be easier to come up with an irrigation proposal. The initial estimate was $8,500 to $9,000, and I don't see that as being problematic for the park fund. So I think we can move forward, and thank you for all your work and thought.
Yeah,
I
thank
appreciate
you.
everything
Everything you guys done. You make it look at.
Here tonight.
Sure. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
put this back in there, or?
You just move it off to the side. You have to move it
Yeah.
back off to the side. Thank you.
Thanks again. Good night. So the next item on the agenda is our parking study. Our village engineer, Ron Hill, is here to discuss it. We've had a chance to look it over. Um, Maybe have some questions. I don't know.
Want me to go up there?
Yeah, would you please, Ron?
Okay.
Okay, so this was a parking study that was done last summer.
Last summer.
And these are the results of the study and the data and the statistics. And as with all data and statistics, it's subject to interpretation.
And there's considerable leeway, variance.
Yeah. But in a lot of cases, it shows that we are at 85% capacity, would you say?
Now, on a summer Saturday around 6, 7, something like that, it's up over 90. In the core, there's always substantial open spaces north end of Sunset, and also along Mill, and the what we call the Main Street North parking lot always has space. But when you're talking about the main corridor of Main Street and the parking lot to the south and all through there, even municipal and private, it's up around 90%. And I think it's mostly driven by, the restaurant use.
When you say 90%, that's what timeframes?
Eh, 6, 5:30, 6, 7, in that, and then it starts going down after 8.
In what season?
Summer, August.
August.
Yeah.
So not necessarily June, July?
July, I would think, it's probably a little less in June, but July and August are pretty much the same.
I would say.
Once the schools close,
Yep.
and people are out more full-time.
Okay.
And the shoulder seasons, parking isn't really a big issue.
And I think this probably confirmed that we do have one underused lot.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah, the
Uh,
Main Street North and all along Mill Road.
And you did have a couple of recommendations for outlining some parking areas on some of the side streets to help out.
Yeah, along Mill Road, there's no lining, so in North on Sunset, so when you get close to driveways, people, you get uneven and large spaces in between. If you put some lines down, it might help make it more orderly. That's easy fix. Yeah, signing that points to where the unused parking is. I think I put in there, I was in Sag Harbor Veterans Day weekend, and went to a restaurant on Main Street on the east side and had to park way over on the west side and walk through. And, it was a fairly long walk, but we did it. I mean, that's where the parking was available, so.
Ron, do you think it would be effective if store owners, restaurant owners encouraged or somewhat enforced employees to park in some of those outer lots, like over by the fire department off of Mill Road?
Yeah, that would free up spaces for customers. In East Hampton, they control their main lots with time restrictions. And it really forces the employee, they have an outside lot that's ways outside the village. They run shuttles for sometimes. And the employees generally park up there because there's not enough time unless they want to go out and move their car all the time.
Right.
Uh,
I think we should do that. People, if you have a business on Main Street, you should not park on Main Street. You should park around back out of the way.
Yeah.
It's accessible for customers to
it-
come in and utilize you.
If you can encourage your employees to do that.
Mandatory,
Which
it's
is-
come down to that. People take up spaces up there and they leave their car there all day long, when it
Yeah.
should be there.
Especially the Glover's Lane parking lot is totally unused.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
just as close to Main Street as the South Lawn.
Yeah.
I mean, it's right there.
It's a little hidden, you know,
Yeah.
we don't have,
And
but some
that's the
signing
thing,
would
one of
help
your
that.
recommendations was additional signage,
Yeah.
directional signage and all that stuff. That's what we need.
Yeah.
Some of the things we're gonna have to discuss about needing.
U-turns, people making U-turns.
Well, that's diagonal parking.
There's something else. Yeah.
Well, I talked about some of the uses and where you might adjust, parking. When you take an individual use and isolate it, you have to be worried about the parking lots spill out like on Montauk Highway or up on Old River Road, Head Road. But different uses have different peaks. Residential generally peaks after 9 o'clock. Movie theaters is usually at night and on Friday and Saturday night, particularly Saturday night, which is probably, like the performing arts. So when you have a lot of different uses, you gain some flexibility that you don't have when you're looking at uses up along Montauk Highway and Old Riverhead Road. So you can be more lenient. And Main Street is kind of unusual because you have a couple of different things going on there. You have properties that have virtually no parking were pre-zoning.
Mhm.
And then for a long time, parking was, you needed one space for every 150 square feet of retail. And several uses along Mitchell Road and between Moneybog and Mitchell were built with that, with plenty of parking.
Mhm.
Now you've changed it to, in this particular case, 1 per 250. Those uses have excess space. So theoretically, they could expand, although it's difficult within the footprint. They could put in apartments with that extra space if they wanted. We looked at individual uses like apartments. Right now, the code says two spaces for every apartment. When you get in, and then the code in the village looks for smaller units. And it's questionable whether those smaller units really need the two. The two is usually associated with a 3-family residential house.
Mhm.
Yes.
And sometimes that's not enough.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just right. When you get into smaller units, there may be some flexibility there. If you had 50 such units, the average may be, 1.5 cars.
Mhm.
But you're looking at individual uses, but they're often tied with a residential use or an office use on the bottom, which peaks during the day and they peak at night. So you have a little flexibility there, and you could probably bring that down
Bring
a
that
little
down,
bit.
yeah.
In the report, I said, yes, basing it on number of bedrooms, studio, 1 bedroom, and then 2 bedroom.
So the square footage based on bedrooms.
But as long as it's associated with another use,
Yes.
it's driving the parking.
Yeah.
I looked at hotel was another one that, and there's an inaccuracy in the report because they said it was 1.25 for unit, and it's 1.25 plus employees.
Hmm.
And like the IT looks at that use and says it's about the use, including employees, about 0.85.
Mhm.
So 1.5 is probably heavy, and then you add the employees. So you could adjust there, maybe cut that down to 1 and then add employees, or just stay at 1.25. Retail and office in the village, could probably squeeze that a little bit. If you wanted to. Port Jefferson uses 1 per 300. Talking with the building inspector. A lot of, recently, a lot of retail and office uses converted to restaurant. And that's always problematic because these buildings don't have any parking per se themselves.
Yeah, yeah.
So what we do when we look at it, we say, okay, you had 900 square feet of space. Under the present standards, that's 4 parking spaces, 1 per 250. 5 years ago or 6 years ago, at 1 per 150, that would have granted you 6 spaces. If you increase the amount of square, parking per square foot on retail or office, say to 300, that'll only get you 3 spaces.
Hmm.
So one thing we thought, maybe we could just say if your restaurant is up to 16 spaces, the conversion is just whatever the retail is at the time. And you get 16 seats if you convert a 900 or 1,500. So there are things there, but they're all, the thing to remember about parking again is different uses peak at different times. And you get somebody with a hot retail space and it runs out of parking. But then there's all those other stores next to there that aren't doing that. So this is an average and it's flexible. And somebody may have a big day during and use more parking for 2 days out of the summer. But in the downtown where you have municipal parking, lots of parking all over, this cushion there, and that gets absorbed. So I think there's quite a bit of flexibility.
It
to
is.
put it.
We just have to get more people to use more of the parking that's
Yeah.
available.
Mhm.
And
Instead of being,
that frees it up. Yeah.
instead of being right in front of the exact store that they want to go to at the exact time. And then say there's no parking spaces.
Well, I've told this story several times that my wife and I went to the back parking lot in the south. I don't know, 6 o'clock, summertime. It looked like it was madness.
Yeah.
People were waiting and fighting for spots. I, no joke, drove out past Sexton Commons. Our municipal lot was empty. There was one car. And then we went past the old farmers market lot behind the fire department, whatever we call that,
Yeah.
Glover's, also empty. So it's a matter of communication about what's available.
Yeah. People don't like to walk, so they're always, no matter what you do,
Mm,
they're always going to vie for that closest space, and they'll waste time looking for it.
If we could create 100 more spaces in front of the Performing Arts Center, that would be great,
Yeah.
but it's just not practical.
Yeah, the land's too valuable.
Right.
Anything else?
No, the basic idea is to get a handle on how to manipulate our code carefully.
Yeah.
So we can expand carefully and not overwhelm things. So, but signage for unused lots seems to be prime on the list.
Some signage
So-
and markings,
And
pavement markings would help
Yeah.
a lot too.
Yeah, maybe a sign that shows, once a couple of signs different, maybe at the 3 municipal lots that shows outlining the village and where
right,
the parking
Just-
is.
quickly, easily read.
Yeah.
And understood to direct people around.
As well as street signing that points to it.
Right, right. Okay. Any
I
other
still want
questions?
that close spot.
Always. Thank you, Ron.
Thank you.
Okay, our next topic, outdoor dining and music. I think the basic item for my basic responsibility right now is to update everybody on the status of this situation. As I said in our work session previously, I had a meeting scheduled with Mr. Frano and Mr. Hammond and myself. We went to Yaphank and we met with Suffolk County. We had several entities there and 5 or 6 people from Suffolk County there. representing the Board of Health, the DPW, the sewer, food protection. So it was a very unusual meeting, I guess, because we were seeking to coordinate and cooperate with Suffolk County. They welcomed that. I think it was a very productive meeting. A lot of discussion, and I'll try and summarize it now, and I'm sure I'll miss something, but the high points I think I can get. Basically, we cannot override Department of Health seating requirements. This board does not have the ability to override that at all in any way, shape, or form. So our communication and cooperation with the Board of Health is essential. And we have opened up that communication. After that meeting, Mr. Hammond prepared documentation that we promised we'd share with them on all of our eating establishments and some other business establishments. Department of Health in particular is going to go over that material, and they're going to share data and documentation on all those establishments with us. The idea is to coordinate and cooperate with this agency because we have to. Pre-COVID, there were regulations for outdoor dining, and health department services had certain formulas and things that they were adhering to. COVID, as soon as indoor dining became, I guess, unacceptable or was thought to be dangerous to people's health, outdoor dining restrictions loosened quite a bit. And we loosened some of those restrictions as well, admittedly, because we saw the need to help our restaurants. Outdoor dining has become a very popular, positive thing. This board supports it completely as much as we possibly can within the restrictions of the health department. There is no one on this board that objects to outdoor dining, no one. So I would like to stress that, and we will do our best to promote outdoor dining and have it continue as best we can within the guidelines of the health department. We have yet to receive the data from the health department, so we don't know. It was a surprise to me and a surprise, I think, to them, their interagency coordination as well, because this has an effect on the sewer. It has effect on flow rates. It has effect on all those things. So I think they're going to improve interagency coordination as well, and a coordination with us. We did have some establishments that were hooking up to our new sewer, and they were, for whatever reason, I don't know what reason, claiming that they had an enormous number of seating, a large number of seats available in their establishment. Sewer agency didn't check that. They just accepted it, and they counted that against our flow. We have a projected 60,000 gallons per day flow in our sewer. So the sewer agency is accepting these applications. Oh, yes, this restaurant has 130 seats, and at this many gallons per seat, that's this much flow. And it went through. So we have gotten a handle on that, and we are making sure that that is in line with what they actually are entitled to by health department. So there are a lot of moving parts in this particular process that we're trying to coordinate. And I don't have any specific answers yet because we haven't gotten the data yet from the Department of Health. There are a couple of instances, maybe 6 establishments that do not have any seating requirements by the health department at all, because they are not regulated by the health department. Those are the establishments that are regulated by the New York State Department of Agriculture and Markets. So I think we have 3 on the books now with a potential of 3 more, where there is no seating requirement from Suffolk County, absolutely none. So those seating requests and applications are up to this board entirely. And this board will make those decisions based on the available room at the particular establishment and access, egress, all those kinds of things. We don't want 50 picnic tables within 10 square feet. That would be ridiculous. So it's that kind of a situation. I don't think we have a problem with those establishments, and I think that will probably move forward rather quickly. For the establishments that have Department of Health regulations in place that restrict or are less than what they are applying for to us, we are not, I've talked to the board about this. Our plan of attack is this: we will not deny that application. We also will not approve that application. We will recommend that the owner of that establishment appeal to the Department of Health. They appeal to the Department of Health. If they get a change in their seating capacity, they can let us know. Department of Health will let us know. Within 24 to 48 hours, we can have a special meeting, consider that application from our perspective, and either grant or modify that particular application. So bottom line is there are some applications that we will be able to approve on our next meeting. April 4th is our next meeting, in time for the April 15th normal outdoor seating season. There are a few applications that we're going to have to put on hold and give people time to appeal to the Board of Health. I realize that this maybe has brought out more questions in your minds than answered, but that's the status of where we are. Now, I realize we have a lot of people representing the restaurant business, and if you have a question, we will try to answer it. And I would ask Mr. Hammond and Mr. Frano to chime in if I missed something, if I misspoke, let me know, because the last thing I want to do is miscommunicate. There's a lot of social media information with a lot of topics in this village that's inaccurate. So I'm trying to set everything straight, and please be patient. That's all I can say. Now, if there's anyone that would like to ask a question about outdoor dining, please come to the podium. If there are multiple people, rather than having everybody raise their hand, if you just line up and speak one after the other, please keep your questions or comments rather brief, 2 or 3 minutes. We'll try and answer your question and move on to the next person. So with that being said, does anyone have any questions?
I'm unclear. After you said about Department of Ags, you said there are applications that you'll be able to approve because their seating matches what their indoor seating is? I was unclear what you were.
No, because, well, the easy ones are the Department of Ag and Market, because they have no seating capacity restrictions imposed
They
by
don't
the
have any
health
seating.
department. What?
Department of Ags doesn't have seating, period.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And that there is no seating restrictions on those
It's not
businesses
that there's no
whatsoever.
restrictions with Department of Ags.
No, I
The
didn't say
Department of
that. I
Ags
said
doesn't
seating.
permit seating
That they have no seating restrictions whatsoever.
because they don't permit seating, because when you have seating, you switch over to the Department of Health. That is the distinction between the two agencies.
Well, my understanding, Department of Ag, for example,
Mhm.
farm stand out on Riverhead Road, wherever. They sell produce, farm things, maybe make soup or whatever. They want to put a picnic table out, there is no issue.
There's no issue because it's never been brought to anyone's attention. I was Department of Ags for years. I was required to switch over to Department of Health to have tables and chairs. That's the only way you can actually get assigned as allowance of seating.
Okay.
So you're saying we should just revert back to Department of Ags and then we could just apply to you. So if I was under Department of
Or
Ags now,
if
just
you
as a
come-
market,
Business entities that are currently being governed by the Department of Agriculture and Markets.
and you've met with
we
them
need
as
to-
well.
I'm
Like you
sorry?
took, you went and met with the Department of Health. Did you meet with Department of Ags to find out their regulations?
New York State?
No.
No,
Okay.
New York State was not there.
Because
But
their
they
regulations are
did that.
you can't have seats. It's not that there's no restriction on it. Their regulation is you can't have seats. You can't have tables and chairs.
All we can do is respond to that because nobody's investigated what the regulations of
I,
Department of
I
Health.
thoroughly agree with you that you didn't. The question is, why did you investigate with the health department?
Well,
If you're not
this
going to do
was-
it across the board, why did you take it upon yourselves to investigate with the health department when we've had a process in this village for 30 years that has worked? You have several restaurant owners here. Many of us have had outdoor seating through you for years. And I think I speak for pretty much everyone who's here, has never been written up by the health department. So what made us go that step with the health department and involve wastewater, but you're not doing it on Department of Ags? I mean, so what you're saying is I just never should have switched from Department of Ags. And then you'd be able to license my tables and chairs, which I will tell you is in direct opposition of Department of Ags, just like it was with the health department. But because you're
We'll
not
have to
having
check
that meeting,
As that was brought up by Suffolk County,
Health department, not by us.
not by us. That
but
was-
you're not pursuing that.
Well,
We have a chance.
we will now. I was going to respond to something else that you said. We will pursue that aspect. Okay,
So in actuality, what we're doing is, so you're saying anybody who's under Department of Health is not going to get outdoor seating
no, I'm not saying. that.
unless they
I'm
get
saying
approval
that-
from the health department?
I'm saying that we'll have to abide by whatever the Department of Health says. Now, years ago, apparently, before COVID,
Mhm.
there was a stipulation in the Department of Health that if you wanted outdoor seating, that was considered. If you eliminated one indoor seat,
For every two
you
outside.
could get two outdoor seats. Those kinds of things, I believe, are still in place. So if you eliminate indoor seating, if you have 16 seats inside now,
Then you could have 32 outside.
you can eliminate all your indoor seating.
You don't get both.
You
Hmm?
don't get both, right? You don't
Right.
have the 16 in and the 32 out. You get one or the
And
other.
did you clarify with them if that is on a seasonal or on a year-round basis?
They are, I think, evolving to be year-round.
Year round,
When are
And
they going
we
to
are-
evolve?
We are,
not our.
that's not our call.
Yeah.
Our permits are seasonal. And especially the ones that are on our property.
Okay, so again, I'm gonna ask the same question. What made you go to the health department to clarify a system that seemed to be working fine, that none of us were ever penalized for?
But it wasn't working fine. And it
What?
we
It's-
were running into issues that we thought we should seek guidance and cooperation and cooperate with the Board of Health.
But
because
it's gonna
if we
end
are
up
flying-
costing
if
this
we
village
are
outdoor
giving-
dining for the summer.
If we are giving approvals that fly in the face of the Board of Health, that's wrong. We do not have that authority. So we are checking with the Board of Health to make sure that we do not do that.
So any establishment that is under Board of Health right now, you are
Yes.
going to require that they get a permit from the health department first for outdoor seating.
So
I'm
we're
trying to
we're
clarify
con-
exactly what the
no,
process
We're gonna
is.
confirm what we're gathering from them is their seating capacity that they have for each of these listed.
Okay,
We do not have that complete list right now. We will after they send it to us. We don't have a complete list of seating capacities for all of our establishments, to be honest.
I'm still unclear as to what your process is. Say they come back to you and say, okay, this is a 30-seat restaurant.
Yes,
Are you then issuing a permit based on the fact that they say it's a 30-seat restaurant and we're gonna allow 15 seats outside? Or are you waiting for them to go to the health department, give up seats inside to allow for the outdoor?
I'm gonna
I'm-
interrupt at this
I
point.
just
I
wanna know
don't
the
think there's a
process.
policy yet. I think that they, because of concern of the health department regarding issues brought up for certain, not by the village, but by other people, was interested in discussing this, but I don't think that the village board already has determined a policy and can answer a specific question.
But you
like
just said
that.
you're gonna do approvals at the
Excuse
next.
me?
You just said you're gonna do approvals at the next meeting, so I'm.
I said for the ones that are.
The ones yeah, I think you
have
said that the
information.
ones that the health department indicated did not need health department approval. The others we're considering as a board, or the board is considering, I'm not considering, I'm not on the board.
I'm sorry, you just said that the health department says doesn't need health department approval? I mean, as in
But that
Department of
the,
Ags or certain
listen,
restaurants that don't need health
It's
department?
quite clear, what Ralph said, what the mayor said was that the health department
If you
told
include
him,
a-
you want to speak? I'll keep shut, I'll keep my mouth shut. It's not important.
I'm asking for clarification. If it was clear, I wouldn't be asking. If I understood exactly what he said.
Clarification is I understand it, Ralph, you tell me, excuse me, Mayor Urban. But it's my understanding, based upon the conversations that they had, and I was not at the meeting, that the health department advised them that there were certain businesses that were regulated by ag and markets that dealt with like grocery stores, stuff like that, that are not within their jurisdiction. And that's what they indicated. And then there are a whole bunch of other restaurants that are within their jurisdiction. But it's also my understanding that the board that sits here has just had that meeting that was caused in large part by interest on the part of the health department because of complaints. The board sitting here has not really formulated a village policy if it needs to change in connection with what they heard at the health department. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And the other part of this is that we completely support and encourage outdoor dining to the degree we can.
Right.
Yes.
But
We're
so
not,
again, to
uh,
clarify, at this point in time, nobody under the health department would be permitted outdoor seats.
As of tonight, you're right. Once we get more information from the Suffolk County Health Department, we're sharing information, as I said.
Then will a
and-
letter go out to all the restaurants explaining what the new process will be? Because I don't think anyone is aware that there's going to be a new process. I think people are aware that they've applied and it's status quo as it has been forever. And
Letter's probably a good idea.
We'll approve as many as we can at our April 4th meeting, but we're still, as I said, I understand there is no definitive answer yet.
so there's no definitive answer on the policy moving forward. But you keep saying you're going to approve as many as you can. Approve what?
Outdoor seating.
For establishments that
we
are under the
have-
health department.
The applications on file from 21 establishments
And
for
how
their
many of those-
seasonal outdoor seating. Currently 2 or 3,
So that's what you'd be approving at the next meeting.
probably unless we run into a wrinkle from New York State Department of Ag that we have yet to
Or you could just
investigate.
adapt them and then approve them so people could actually have them.
Well, that would be-
You could have done with all of the other 21. But you're
Yes.
saying.
That's
that
not
20
the way we
Anything like that.
don't intend to operate. in that.
I see that. So, but out of the 21, you're saying only 2 to 3 have the option of potentially being approved at the next meeting.
At least 2 or 3 at this time, yes,
Minimum.
minimum.
We're hoping for better.
Well, if we
That's
get,
what I'm unclear about is how do we get to hoping for better? Like, what does somebody do in the meantime to get onto that list that might be approved? That's what I'm trying to figure out what you guys are suggesting. If you're saying it's only
Say it
Department of
again.
Ags, that's very clear. But if you're saying that you are hoping to get some other people through, I want to know what those applicants, myself included, can do to try to get to that point. That's where my blurry is.
What you can do is wait for us to get the information from the Department of Health that we're waiting for. And if that concurs and complies, and we can grant that particular application, we will. If we get information that is contrary to what the application is asking for, then we're gonna have to put it on hold.
I'm still very unclear as to how anyone's gonna jump off
Sorry.
that list and onto the other if you're not giving us what it is that you're looking for to get those others to the approval process. I understand the
We're looking
Department of
for
Ag's portion.
confirmation of seating capacities from the Department of Health.
Okay, well,
And how
that's
they
easy.
want us, how they want us to handle outdoor seating and comply with their,
So if they came back to you and said, okay, here's the list, here's everybody's here's everybody's indoor seating, and we are willing to do outdoor seating at the 1-to-2 ratio. Does that give you carte blanche to approve all of those places, or do we still have to then go to the health department? I guess that's what I'm trying to figure out.
if we get that kind of response, I would think that our approvals would go based on last year's, I don't think there were any problems in my mind last year with outdoor dining.
I
There
didn't
weren't
think there were any,
complaints.
if I was aware.
I think everybody enjoyed it. And if we get that kind of a response from the health department, which I would look forward to,
Which would just say, let's say on the simplest of terms,
Yes.
we're sticking with our original, nobody needs a permit from the health department, but in order to do this, you're giving up 1 inside for 2 outside.
yes,
Then any applicant would be in front of you at the next meeting
yes.
with you confirming how many seats the place has and the applicant applying for twice that or whatever it is that they're willing to give up.
Confirming that the numbers are accurate and we're conforming to the health department regulations. That's it.
Okay.
Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Craig Swift from Goldberg's. Good morning.
Oh, good morning.
My question is,
Afternoon, sorry.
what is or was the Department of Health's concerns and complaints that they're addressing that brought this whole thing on?
I think it's mostly, I heard it initially not in a Department of Health meeting. I was at a separate meeting with Suffolk County regarding sewers. And they were saying that this is a county-wide difficulty scaling back the outdoor dining from COVID because it is affecting their flow because a large number of Suffolk County restaurants are now using not only outdoor dining, but their indoor dining. So their flow has increased greatly. So it was from a sewer aspect, not from Department of Health aspect. And then coincidentally, these other conversations started coming up and wanted clarification from Suffolk County. So I asked for this meeting and they were more than glad to have this meeting and they welcomed it and we're developing, I think, a sense of collaboration and cooperation, and communication as well.
Okay, for whatever it's worth, I'll tell you that since COVID, our outdoor dining business has probably approached nearly 70% of our revenue in season. And that would be quite a hardship to have a dent in.
We do not want to create hardships. We would like to be able to maintain, as I said last year, I don't think there are any problems. We would like to be able to maintain that within health department regulations.
All right, I'll rely upon you guys to defend us. Thank you.
Well, Craig, one of the things that troubles me is, and I don't have a clear answer on this, is what defines outdoor dining / outdoor seating. And, you have a place where you have people that typically buy something inside and take it outside, right? You don't have table service outside.
Correct.
And then, so there are all these other intricacies of what the Department of Health is looking at in terms of the amount of people at an establishment. What are they doing? Are they in the bathroom? Are they creating dishes to be washed because of flow, right? As the mayor said, a lot of this really comes back to the sewer and flow and our restrictions on the sewer flow that we have, 60,000 gallons a day. So it gets kind of convoluted. So I'm not really making a specific point, but there's a difference between, in my eyes, what outdoor dining is and outdoor seating is, and what someone might do to buy a bagel and go sit on the sidewalk without a seat
On a paper plate.
on a paper plate. Exactly. So it these are the things that I've been asking and struggling with, to really look at, like, why this is an issue and how we solve it. Um, as the mayor said, there is definitely no one on this board that doesn't want to help out in every way possible. I love outdoor dining. I love what you've done and Michael Brunetti has done and other people with the barriers, and it just looks great. It's safe. Pedestrian access isn't inhibited. It kills me that we are having to have this conversation. I wish that it was as simple as just, yeah, go for it. It's great. I think we all agree on that. I'm just trying to figure out how we do it. And we still have a little bit of time. So I really don't feel like this meeting is the end of the conversation. It's certainly not the end of the conversation. It's kind of the beginning of the conversation.
Right, it can't be the end of the conversation. It's a
I,
work in
I,
progress.
I'll tell you that I will do anything I can. I'm not going to speak for the whole board, but I'm pretty sure they agree with me. Anything I can to make sure that we get you your outdoor seating for this season. I know how important it is.
Thank you.
I really don't want to be having this conversation. I wish we could just do it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I appreciate your sentiment that everybody wants outdoor dining, and I can really actually, I can't express to you how much I just don't understand why it wasn't just left the way that it was, because for 30 years it has operated. I understand you're saying you got complaints. I don't know what the complaints are, other than obviously the ones that are directed at my establishment constantly. The fact that we constantly in this village react to complaints more so than actually what's good for the system and what's good for the community is outrageous. I have lived through the last, 7 months based on complaints. I'm living through it again on something else I want to do with my establishment on the premise that, oh, do you really want to do that because your neighbors are going to complain? Not my problem. My business operation should not be directed by neighbors who complain when you are acting within good faith of how things should be. It is entirely different when we're talking about doing something illegally. And I'm not going to argue that. But the fact that we live in fear of our neighbors who complain about things, move somewhere else. Don't find your main street. Stop. I mean, it's madness that we're being curtailed by a few people. That put aside,
You have
I
a-
understand,
a-
yes, I have a question.
Question. or-
My question is, so you're aiming for this to happen. I don't think you realize how incredibly slow the health department works. And you say health department, and I'm not sure who you,
Suffolk County
no,
Health Department.
you said health department and you
360
said
Yaphank.
sewer and you said food service. When you say health department, do you mean wastewater? Okay, health department is
Both
basically
entities together.
all of
yes.
that above. So
We have multiple,
I assume you meant wastewater when you said your third entity. So if they're the ones, so I'm unclear if they're the ones now who are going to be doing the licensing or you are still.
seed assessment. not.
Okay, so then,
For each business, they do the seed assessment.
okay, so
We
I'm
don't
just
have
going to
that
ask
kind
a question because I don't know how else to compare it. When I put out the fire pit, I got the permit for the fire pit and I put out Adirondacks. I had to then apply to the SLA in order for me to serve out there. Not allowed to serve out there without SLA approval. If I was to serve out there without SLA approval or with,
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yep.
When you say serve out there,
to serve
does-
alcohol out there.
but
under
does,
my
but does that
license.
include if someone took a grab and go out of your?
You can't do alcohol. Well, I haven't been sure since COVID what the rules are to go.
I'm
looking
not
at
sure
it.
either.
I'm not
So
sure.
if someone took
If
it,
if they want to have a beer, take
Sat
it out of
down.
my case and sit down out of that fire pit, I have to have SLA approval to use that area. You have a liquor license for a footprint. If you want to expand outside of that footprint, even on your own, it's not by address, it's a footprint. So my downstairs, my porch, my front lawn are all licensed
what's
and my upstairs.
marked as your footprint?
Correct.
Okay.
So I let's say I never went to the SLA. You, go ahead, what were you gonna say?
Sorry, that's another entity we do not override.
That's,
So I-
this is why I'm using it as an example. I know you don't override them. It's like, let's say I never went to the SLA and you or the police or code enforcement, let's say, comes by and sees someone with a beer in that space. They're not able to write that ticket. They refer it to the SLA. Wouldn't outdoor dining now be the same then? Wouldn't code enforcement now not be able to write a ticket for outdoor dining? Wouldn't it have to just be a complaint to the Suffolk County Health Department?
Health department.
The health department has their own enforcement arm.
I'm aware,
Oh,
that's
yes.
not what I'm asking. I know they
Yes.
do. None of us have ever suffered at their hands, but we know that they do.
I don't.
My question is, would code enforcement still be able to write, just like code enforcement can't write me for an SLA violation, they have to report me to the SLA. Would code enforcement now be able to write for outdoor dining? Or would they now just have to report it to the health department if you're changing the process?
There's,
So, it's an annual permit from the Board of Trustees, that would be a site plan violation.
I was just gonna say that.
So that's what it would be written.
So it would be a site plan
Yeah,
violation.
it wouldn't be writing for a health code violation, be writing under the village code for a violation. Okay, and as you know, under the SLA, the police department can issue a summons.
No, they just refer it.
No, they can issue a summons if they so desire. They don't have to, they can just make a referral, they can do either way.
Is Steve here? Is that,
We normally refer to the SLA.
that's what I've been told is always,
For an alcohol or something of that nature, we're generally gonna go under the village code.
okay. Uh-oh, back again.
Would it be in the town or the retailer's best interest if we had an attorney that was up on these codes go with the board or the trustees to the Department of Health?
We always have our attorney
The
and our.
attorney that represents us.
That represents us.
The person they're referring to was not at that meeting.
Right, he did not
And
go to that meeting.
I think
But
a
it was
conscious
just-
decision was made on the part of the board and everybody that they should do it informally without me there.
Yes.
Can I invite you to the next meeting?
I don't know what's gonna happen. I mean, I've got less information than the people who were there at the meeting. I think that what I wanted to say is that I think everybody on the board did express what Brian expressed, that they're really hot on keeping as much outdoor dining as possible in the village. And from what I view it, I think the mayor and Steve are a little bit ahead of me. The way I view it is, how do we do that given the health department's concerns? Can we act to some extent independently? I don't know, maybe. And so, but that's not been discussed. I think they'll attest to it, that they've never really discussed this with me, but we'll work. I believe we're gonna work it to maximize it as much as possible.
Well, why can't, I'm gonna chime in here now. I've been sitting back listening to this, go back and forth stuff. The bottom line is what we should do is go upon what we've done in previous history is approve outdoor dining. If people want to apply, then they have to apply to a Board of Health. Let the Board of Health dictate at that point who can have what, how many chairs, how many tables. We're overstepping it, we're getting
Board of Health
overcomplicated
is-
in doing what we're doing here by trying to micromanage with the Board of Health. Let us issue, you can have your outdoor dining subject to all the other years you've had it. These are how many seats and tables you've had. Now, it's up to you and let the Board of Health come in if they correct it up that point, because everybody's saying about COVID, pre-COVID, after COVID, everybody says this is a learning curve for all of us. But the bottom line is, these people need to have outdoor dining to survive. End of story. And the bottom line is, we as a board, by these people have voted us in here to help them. So we don't need to micromanage, we don't need to sit here and go, let's support out. Stop getting ourselves involved in stuff we shouldn't be involved. We should sit here and just help this community out to survive. And I'm here to help us. If they're in a violation, give them a ticket. I'm all for that. But the bottom line is, we can't sit here and drag our feet to break this up. We already had people who did all the approvals, everything else, years and years past. Why not approve it and let them go if they get a violation from Board of Health, then that's on them, not on us. I think
And
we're
an
wasting
addendum to
too
the
much.
application, holding you not liable.
We don't want to be that way.
Exactly.
Just let us consider that and get the information for you.
Well said. There it is.
What does the attorney say to
I'm
that?
sorry, what,
What does the attorney say to that?
Don't answer.
No, I mean, that's one possibility, which is, sitting in the audience, it's possible that we may, in a situation where there isn't clear prohibition by the health department, we may be able to do something like issue a permit with a disclaimer on the part of the village, because we're not reviewing health department standards. We have no jurisdiction to interfere with them in any way. We're concerned with zoning and other types of policy decisions. So that's a possibility. I mean, again, I'm coming at this a little bit late, but, something we have to discuss with the board. And I don't want to discuss it in what my full opinions are, even if I had formulated them in a public forum without discussing it with them privately, because I don't want to get stuck with something.
Yeah, and to just piggyback on that, not to belabor it, in concept, I agree completely with Trustee Rubio. We've talked about this before, and I think that with the guidance of our attorneys, we could do something like that. I'd be fully in support of that, and I've mentioned to a few people, it's like if the village grants a permit to build a house on waterfront, to what degree, and Brad, you might be able to chime in, sorry, but, well, I'm just saying, to what degree do we monitor other jurisdictions? DEC for, a wetlands permit and things like that, um, we need to act on our own.
No, I'm fine.
Sorry, Stacy.
So it's a little, so I'll go with your analogy. So as a building inspector, there are many different jurisdictions, right? Health department being one of them for commercial, health department being one of them for residential. So in the instance where my job is to make sure that anything that's done is backed by law and backed by code. So if I mistakenly give you a permit that's gonna be in problem with the DEC, and I can't give you a C of O, or I issue that C of O, and then that is taken away from you because I didn't get their approval, you're in a real bad way.
Mhm.
It doesn't help anybody, property owner, business owner, anything, if we set people up for failure, right? Like, we don't give big fines. I think anyone who's gotten a ticket can attest to that. That's not the goal. The goal is just compliance. But the county can give big fines, the state can give big fines, and they can take things away from you. So I totally appreciate the thought, and it's, a lot of what we're talking about is seasonal and temporary and outside and not permanent, and it's not the same as building a house, which, you're investing hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? But we also don't want to knowingly approve something continually if it's gonna cause an outside agency to come down and levy fines against many other property owners or business owners, like, that's part of.
Or the village.
Yeah, the village, that's kind of like, I don't see that happening, the county coming after a municipality, but can they come down harder on our owners and our applicants? Do they get a bad stick in their craw about, oh, this is in West Hampton Beach, they don't listen to us, and then all of a sudden it's more difficult for all applicants? Like, we don't want that either.
I think that's a really, really good point. I totally understand it, but it sounds like business owners are willing to take that risk. That's what I'm hearing, is that, you guys, village, let us do our thing, and we'll take the risk with what's gonna happen from the health department.
I'm gonna say that kind of goes into my question.
No there's no permit I'm issuing, CO I'm issuing with relation to this
Right.
particular use.
Right.
So yeah, that doesn't,
It's out of your purview.
out of my, right, I don't really have an
Yep,
opinion one way or the
understood.
other. That's the difference between a house or something.
Right, understood.
And there's code on the books, there's precedent that's been set. You've been allowing these things to happen, which has allowed our village to thrive, and thank you so much for all of that. We're now at a point where it's questioned, it's been poked, and it's where it is at this point. However, there is a section of time that's coming up that our people, and as a business owner, I need to plan, right, how I'm going to function as a business. And it seems like there's another month that goes by, and with what, the way the meeting started on, nothing's going to be done until April 4th. And then there's other questions that come up saying, well, why can't we just go ahead and do as we've done? Because you have nothing that's been put before you yet. Act, why can you not, as a board, decide to take care of that? And if something changes, I guess that changes. I guess that's something that's up to everyone else. I'm just saying, like, what action can this board take now, tonight, before April 4th, to perhaps
no.
help?
We can't take any action tonight. This is a work session. We don't pass any resolutions at all at a work session.
So only
It would
by
have to
April
be-
4th, because it'll be a formal meeting with
Yes.
that.
Yeah,
being-
it's a notice.
So can
regular
something
meeting,
please be resolved
something
to allow these people to function and
We will
operate as a
resolve
business?
as much as we possibly can, yes.
Right. Otherwise, I'm
And-
going to start a campaign and I'll be carrying my chair with me everywhere I go, and I'll just take up the spot on Main Street to get my stuff and sit outside and eat.
Okay.
I don't want to have that happen because it looks much nicer the other way. So thank you
But
again.
The way it went last year was pretty good, I thought.
Doesn't sound like that's the way it's going to go so far here.
We'll see.
Thank you.
We're working towards it. Anyone else on the outdoor dining issue? Okay. Music, outdoor music, we do have applications and we anticipate approving those. We did have a move of one of our outdoor concerts. The library moved their concerts from Thursday to Wednesday. So previously, outdoor music within that vicinity was restricted on the night of that concert. So that we anticipate will change to Wednesday. But other than that, we'll maintain the status quo on the outdoor music.
No, alteration, just a date. This moves it from Thursday to Wednesday,
Thursday to Wednesday, right?
with their rain date being on Thursday.
Yes, yes.
Weekly, it's great.
So any questions or comments on the outdoor music issue? Okay. Next one is the bocce court plaque. Fazio, do you have anything that you'd like to present? Yes, we're familiar with it. We've all got emails about it. Yes, I realize that. Is that all you have to, is that all you have to offer right now? Because I'm ready to respond if you would like. I have a response. Are you ready? Okay. Personally, I think it was very bold and arrogant on your part. Place a boulder in our park without permission. As a matter of fact, I told you not to do anything until you get approval. I have emails to show that. And yet you
Both told you
proceeded.
that.
And yet you proceeded. I think it is inappropriate for you've generously given us 2 bocce courts. We appreciate that greatly. But for you to assume that because you have given us 2 bocce courts, you now own the park. Whoops. Is incorrect. Excuse me. No, you do not own the park. This is the Maria Z. Moore Park. You have that? That's by resolution. This is a community park. This is a recreational park for the entire community. You do not have authority to do whatever you want within that park. You have to get permission. And I've emailed you that, I've told you that several times. And yet you boldly move ahead with whatever you feel is appropriate, and you're wrong. I think you owe us an apology, to be honest. Now let me move forward. I told you we would have this discussion. You presented your plaque. I've told you before that the maximum I recommend is 10 by 16 as the size of a plaque. There is a justification for that size because we have now in our possession a plaque dedicating the entire park that is 10 by 16. That is the maximum size plaque that I think is appropriate for this park. And I will have you know right now, 10 by 16 is what I'm going to put in to the resolution for this particular plaque that you are requesting. The boulder that you have placed in our park in a location that was dedicated to the library is going to be moved. It's an inappropriate size. It's an inappropriate location. I'm going to put in the resolution that this boulder be moved. Now, if you would like to get a smaller boulder and have this boulder returned, or a smaller rock, I should say, and have this boulder returned, that is your option. You have said you don't have the equipment to do it. Our DPW will do it for you. We can have this rock removed and stored up at the DPW yard for you to retrieve at your discretion or leisure or whatever, as long as it's between 6:30 and 2:30 on business days. That's when the DPW barn is open. If you select another rock, and this will be in the resolution, that is approximately 20 by 20 inches to accommodate a 16 by 10 plaque, that's your discretion. And it will go in the southwest corner below the bocce courts. That will be in the resolution. And incidentally, I will, without your request, include the benches that you placed between the bocce courts without permission, without notification. This is not your park. It's the community's park. We are in representing the community. We are doing our best. This is not to be a memorial park and have plaques the size of 20 by 24 bronze plaques around the whole area. We do have a memorial park. It's the military memorial park down by the marina. That has appropriately sized plaques for a memorial because it's in tribute to our military. Just listen to me. Now, if you think that this size 10 by 16 is too small to accommodate all the information you have on your plaque, I would recommend, I think it would be appropriate, you eliminate mentioning the Board of Trustees. You eliminate mentioning all of your benefactors that contributed material or whatever after you talk to them to see if they would be comfortable with that, and simply make it a tribute to your wife. Have her name, her image as you suggest, if you like. 10 by 16, a 20 by 20 rock in the southwest corner. Our DPW will place it. And I will put the benches on the resolution as well, even though you didn't ask in advance.
Speak.
Certainly,
You and I met in the park.
we did.
We did. And I said, I can see a plaque on a stone. I said, that's what I was thinking. That was the last communication before that stone went place.
No, wait.
Yes, yes.
No, emails.
Okay.
I have emails that suggest 10 by 16 plaque. You sent us,
I'm talking about the stone. I said a plaque on a stone in the park. He says, that's what I was thinking. You didn't
Yes.
say what size. put the stone
Fine.
in place inadvertently, because I should have.
Inadvertently? No, I don't think,
Inadvertently, wrong word,
wrong word.
okay?
Anyway, the size
that's
of the
where it all
stone is in,
started.
okay, the size of
You
the stone is
say,
inappropriate.
"Don't put a stone," says, that's what I was thinking. Put the stone
And I
in.
said, no, I said we could discuss the location and we could discuss the size of the plaque. We are suggesting at first a 4x6 plaque, if you recall. Both
Yeah.
Mr. Frano and I, 4x6.
That's what we
inches.
suggested. That's
I-
exactly what we
I need
suggested.
to state that I was not part of that conversation. I came into this conversation later. I have to say, I do not agree with some of the mayor's statements. Me personally. I know the mayor thanked you for your contribution. I do too. I do not have the same concerns about the stone, where it's located or the size of the plaque. I think this is a unique situation. I'm sorry that there was miscommunication on part of the board. I know that the mayor's bothered by that, and I understand it fully. There should have been better communication about the details. But I do think that you, I don't think that you did anything intentionally malicious or to overstep your bounds. I think your intentions were good. I
didn't say
understand the
malicious.
results.
I didn't say malicious. I said brazen.
Well, no,
But that's all right.
well,
Go ahead.
no, I'm not saying you said malicious,
ahead.
but I'm saying I don't think you did anything malicious. So,
When you talk about.
I understand. So sorry, Vince, but I know you've been listening a lot, and I know you want to say something, so I won't say much more. But I think that what you did for this park was great. There was miscommunication, and I'm sorry about that. But I personally do not have any issues with your stone, your plaque proposition. I think it's unique. I don't think it sets precedent in terms of what other people can do. It's a case by case basis, and I think you did something very generous and pretty big in scale. And I'd like to, if we need to make some modifications and all come to an agreement, that's what I would like to do so we can get this forward and have you happy because you deserve it for what you did.
You know, from the very beginning, there was never any specification of any kind. This was the specification. Survey. With an outline of 2 basketball courts. Nothing in between the lighting. Okay? So when we dug down to build the courts, we found clay, we found loam, found all this material doesn't drain. So we kept digging. We went down for 3 feet and then a trench, another 2 feet down the center. I didn't stop. I just wanted this to work properly. I didn't just throw out some railroad ties, put some gravel down, say we got our courts, we're done, you know? And, I mean, there's 20 cubic yards of concrete, there's 6 dry wells, there's 180 pounds of 3 different stone, 2 layers of fabric separating the stone, both courts. Stone between, none of that is on here. I just wanted to build the right court for everybody to enjoy forever. Nothing's gonna move on this, and it will drain. You can have a rainstorm the next morning to use. That was the idea. The stone that I put down the middle for a walkway, there's nothing here that says any type of walkway. Just the material is $5,000. This is $100,000 build, just so everybody understands. I didn't stop. I did the best I could possibly do for the town. The miscommunication on the rock, I'm sorry. I apologize. I'd like to keep it there, and this is the plaque I'd like to have. Whenever you take a vote, just, remember, this is what it's about right here, this one. That's why I did this. And deep into my pocket, took my time, did it right, and that's what it's about. She was something else.
As I
Everybody
said,
in this town,
from the
knows
beginning.
that woman.
Well,
You
as
worked
I
with
said,
her. You know what I'm talking about.
as
Okay?
I
If
said
she
from
was
the,
here right now, she would give you a tongue lashing. But she was very outspoken. When she, just to give you a little background, if
you had no place to go and you were alone on Christmas Eve, you would be sitting at my dining room table. She wouldn't leave you alone. And she did that with many of our friends. When she rang the bell for the Salvation Army, she would bring in more money than everybody in the entire community. Because nobody would dare walk by her without putting money in that bucket. Just so you know, that's what this is about, this woman on this plaque. So that's where I'm at.
I don't argue the fact that you've been
want me to
very
give it out
generous.
Go ahead.
I don't argue that you've been very generous with the bocce courts. I don't argue the fact from the beginning, you said you wanted to have a plaque for your wife. We agreed to that.
The storm was a miscommunication, that's all. Let's move ahead. Take your vote, let's move ahead.
Well, the vote won't come until the next meeting. As I said, we don't have any resolutions this evening.
Okay.
So the vote will be on the next board meeting.
I'm thinking
As
of
a
a hot dog
resolution.
stand.
No.
Go Ponds, they're gonna hit.
And I should mention that this is for, you said this is for the community's benefit and the community's use.
Right.
So it's on a first come, first served basis. Whoever wants to come and play, they come and play, correct? Okay, fine. And if there is some kind of an organized effort, like a reserved bocce court club or something, like a Monday night wants to play 6 to 9 and have 20 people use that for, okay, whatever. I'm just saying that would require a use of village property because you're reserving that particular time. Other than that, it's supposed to be first come, first serve, right? Okay, perfect. Sure. I think, I think the chamber has boats as well available to people when they're open.
Lock it up, I don't know.
See, work in progress. So the next item on the agenda is DPW equipment. Mr. Smith has submitted some estimates for refurbishing the payloader in the first place. And the board has them on hand. I did not make copies of all the pictures that Mr. Smith submitted of our existing payloader and process and the eventual end result of this company for refurbishment of other payloaders and other entities.
I have a
But,
couple extra pictures here.
I think,
Hi, everybody.
good night.
Good night, Vin.
I think it would be, here's the finished
Very
product.
nice.
Very nice, very pretty. Yeah, I did, see, I was trying to save paper, so I didn't make copies of all the pictures. But the board does have the pictures of a payloader. Oh,
See the payload, Steve?
so,
You ever driven?
Matt, do you wanna?
So, we obviously have a wide variety of equipment here, and, we have a newer payloader that we use as our primary one. This is our backup one, or
Okay,
shouldn't say backup, I should say secondary one, things that we use for, larger storms. It's smart to have additional equipment because if something goes down, these are not off-the-shelf items. Now, that machine could be down for months before we can get supplies. And as we can see with the COVID supply demand, we all know that all too well. So when I was in the county, we started refurbishing some of our equipment. We started doing the math and saying, well, they do, I don't know, $8 or $10 or $15,000 worth of refurbishments. It's still a lot cheaper than a new $280,000, $300,000 machine, even if you got an additional 5 years. FEMA has regulations on like how long machines traditionally last. We are far exceeding those numbers by a lot in a good way, because we do maintain our equipment internally. And the only thing that mechanically, this machine that we have currently seems perfectly fine, for what we need it for as a secondary machine.
but it is obviously showing signs of severe rot and rust. And I think we try to catch this before it got any worse, is what I'm really trying to push at here. So there is one of those pictures is actually Suffolk County, one of my old payloaders. And then you'll see it's Komatsu. I think and there's also New York City DOT. This contractor does all the municipalities, so he's very well versed in it.
I think it would be well worth the
Right.
investment.
Well, spend $300,000 on a new one, yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Even if
secondary
we got
backup
this for
thing, I mean,
5 years,
that's,
I think
we have a lot of other
probably
things to spend money on than that.
Can't you fix it?
See?
rattle can it and make it look pretty, but it's not going to be functional after a while.
So I don't think anyone have any questions about that?
Yeah.
Okay.
How come it's not done yet?
It might be. I don't even know. I got to check the garage.
The next item is the Village Hall glass replacement. Apparently, there's a broken pane of glass in the upstairs.
This rear records room?
Back here.
Yes.
That needs replacing for $800. And then the other glass replacement, I think we've agreed to try a substitution rather than a replacement. Rather than spend $4,000 on
Right.
Glass. So we'll give that a shot first.
Yep.
Okay.
Do you want me to give a little background on that, or
If the board would like to hear it, that's fine.
just so there was 2 panes in window at the beginning of COVID in order to accommodate, health and safety standards. We had removed the windows and we installed plexiglass in there. Obviously now the COVID restrictions have lifted. We wanted to put the glass back in. However, in the 4 years that the glass was taken out, we don't know where they broke or when they broke, but they are gone. So we don't know if it was an accident by the cleaning company and, they cleaned it up or something to that effect. But to replace them, we do believe in conversations that we can replace it with 2 other panes of glass that aren't being used right now. So they're almost identical in size. So we're going to probably just swap those out. But at some point, we will need to address it, putting the other glass back in or whatever we intend to do with that area.
Right.
So
We're also, there are safety concern issues, and after the safety meeting, and assessment of the office space and things like that, that may evolve as well. Right. Any questions on that?
No.
Anyone? Okay. And then the Village Hall toilet replacement.
yeah, this is an
Who broke the
interesting
toilet?
one. Back when they built this building in, I guess, what,
Bring back the public
2005.
for this one.
Yeah.
Where did we go?
This is the interesting stuff now, right?
Man.
The back in 2005, as part of their lead certifications for this building, they put in a lot of low flow sinks, low flow toilets, efficient lighting, which we've upgraded over the years. But the bathrooms have this in-wall cistern where the entire plumbing of the seat is built into the wall and tiled over. They give you about a 8-inch box to do all the work in there, and it's just not even feasible. So in somebody's infinite wisdom, they decide to use an Australian toilet manufacturer, and we can't even get the parts anymore because these are discontinued. So they have newer ones, but I refuse to suggest that we replace it with similar, because if we're having the same problems, I imagine we'll have the same problems going forward as well. So this was one of the bathrooms that needed to be changed. We did attempt one change in the basement of the police department. It took us a while because it was a trial and error as we went through. So this was to actually have a contractor come in and replace it with a more common usable toilet that you see in every normal commercial bathroom.
And it's in the bathroom down near the building, right?
This is the one, right? Yeah, so right now it has an out of service because the plumbing is completely,
Right. And
turned off.
It's a frequently used.
Right, it is a
facility.
public facing bathroom too.
Yes, right. So I think it's important that we make it usable and change it out so it's easily fixed in the future. Okay.
Feeling this is gonna be a bigger process along the way as things
This is
go
the
along.
biggest contentious issue tonight, I see.
Yeah. There'll be others that are gonna have to be done.
Yeah, we're gonna have to go through even some of the urinals, there are no flush urinals, which are great if you're in Grand Central Station and you have the flow to keep the stuff moving without,
No,
giving
it's
details. But yeah, if you have the flow.
Mm.
But unfortunately, when you have a building like this, that those
always-
bathrooms could be weeks before they're used again. The liquids in it evaporate, the odors start to come back into the building. It's not really a really perfect answer for this. I see what their intent was when they were building the building, but unfortunately, reality of it is didn't make sense.
Okay. The last thing I forgot to put on the agenda is the electronic light notification with radar incorporated. We were first looking into this, talking about a couple of them for notifications of floods and things like that. And we thought we would buy two, but now you're saying that we should start with one because it's refundable.
Right.
And we should also include the radar component, because if we don't include the radar component, then it's no longer refundable.
Well, it's reimbursable under our already existing
Reimbursable.
CHIPS funding, correct? And
Okay.
what it means is that,
You have to meet the criteria. change.
right, and highway safety is the number one criteria for most of the CHIPS programs. Use obviously a radar designed into it, albeit a little more expensive. The sign in itself has a safety mechanism to it to let people know that roads are closed or roads might be in hazard or something like that. But obviously, the radar is that much more of an emphasis. The New York State DOT likes to see that in the application. It's just another reason to approve it.
Yeah, we go that.
Right.
That way.
And we have already had confirmation from DOT that this is reimbursable with that spec.
Great.
So it is meeting their specs.
Correct.
I don't wanna all of a sudden go out and purchase and then find out.
Yeah.
you know, hey,
Now, we have
The DOT
confirmation in
got
advance.
that.
I like to get it in advance
You didn't
before
cross that T,
we
so
buy
you can't
anything,
use
yeah.
it.
Okay.
Any questions?
Anyone else? Questions?
Nope.
Okay. Any other comments from the public? One more time?
I'm in favor of a bidet.
That's a great question.
Okay. Well, with that being done, we don't have any executive session. Thank you all for coming, and meeting's adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
People.